how come I can't be as disciplined? I hear this all. How come I can't be as disciplined as I once was? Or how come it's harder for me to like lose weight? Or how come all these different things? And so we just find ourselves stuck in this cycle of comparison. And the comparison is the thief of joy. If we're constantly comparing it over and over and over, we're never happy. Hey guys, it is Dr. V, and welcome back to another episode of Office Visits with Dr. V. I'm Benita Bernardo, OBGYN, lifestyle medicine physician, both board certified, but just trying to live my best life. Just trying to live my best life and trying to help you live yours. And so, again, we have another awesome episode. This has been a long time coming. And without further ado, I'm just going to introduce Brianna Wilkerson. Hi. Great to be here. Finally be here, right? I think this has been, 3 months in the making? I know. And, we're moms, wives, she's got young kids. How old are your kids? 3 and 1. 3 and 1. And one, she's potty training right now. So, y'all, you know how that goes. So, great for me. Yes, exactly. So, let's get into it. Let's tell our listeners, just tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing in the world. Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Brianna. I'm originally from the Caribbean, and so I love all things warm climates, beaches, and everything. But now I live in Florida, so the warm climate followed me. Or I followed the warm climate, I should say. I used to be an accountant in public auditing for about 4 or 5 years, but after going through a very transformational journey with my own health, my own relationship with food, my body, and myself, I just wanted to help other women. I didn't intend to switch careers, but once I started coaching, I just was like, my goodness, I knew I always loved business, and this is the business I want to do. And so over time, made my way to do that. And I've been doing it for 7 years, just helping women, release anxiety around food, feel confident when they look in the mirror again, and just finally get the energy, the health, and the body confidence they crave. So, yeah. Wow. So I'm just looking at your bright smile, and I know some of y'all are listening to it. Check us out on YouTube. We'll get one of the reels. I'm just saying, your face, it looks like you're glowing. And I'm like, I know you've got lighting. I know. But it just looks like you're radiant and you're happy. Mm-hmm. So tell us, how did you get to this place of helping women with food? What was your story? Yeah, it's a great question. So, growing up, I was exposed to diets like a lot of women are, like just the women that I knew. That's what we did. And, I don't know if it was out of a place of discontent with their body or, again, it's just what we do. But it didn't really occur to me why we did that until high school when I started playing sports. Naturally, when you play go from 0 to 3 sports, you just watch what you're eating because you want to get more nutrition in your body. And I really loved the sports. I loved looking at what I was eating, and I just started losing weight. And of course I noticed, but other people noticed. And as a young high school girl trying to find her place in the world, when people will start to affirm you based on what you're looking, because there's a change, you start to make a belief in your mind that to be seen, to be loved, to be beautiful is to be smaller. That's not what people were saying, but that's the belief you start to make. And so I just kept up in that way. And I think I got to a point where I was actually healthy for my body. But then a huge change happened in my life. Since I'm from the Caribbean, hurricanes are very popular. Hurricane hit, it just caused friends to move away, us to live with my grandparents for a time. And it just felt like life was out of control. And I asked myself, what can I control? And I told myself, okay, I can control how much I eat and exercise and what grades I get. That was my form of dealing with what I was feeling. And it just became unhealthy. I was just exercise more and more, ate less and less, and to the point where my body was just not supported. My period stopped. I mean, I just got my period a couple years ago. It's it shouldn't have stopped, So, wow. I knew something was wrong. And, it's funny. Luckily, I have a lot of loving people in my life. One of my teachers at the time, my English teacher, who also taught careers, was inviting a nutritionist to speak to another class. And she came to me and was like, do you want to speak to her? And at first I was like, oh, fine. I'm like, no, maybe I should. And I should have known something was wrong when I started crying with a nutritionist. I was crying, and she was just like, oh, okay. She recognized it wasn't about Yeah.
specifics around food. It was about what was going on. So she recommended I see a child psychologist at the time. And I just was like, I'm okay. If I eat a little bit more, gain weight, everyone would be happy. So that's what I did. But I never dealt with how I was using other things to manage my emotions. To the end of high school, I was up to be valedictorian, and I felt this pressure to succeed, to perform. And I did the opposite. I went to food for comfort. And to go from one end to the other, it just causes a lot of strife in you too. Like, wait, I was so self-controlled. Now, how did I gain all 60 pounds back? Like, why can't I control myself around this food? And so that just caused a lot of shame and guilt, a lot of body image stuff. And that continued into college until, for me, I started to really see that my worth wasn't in any of that. When I really started to connect with my faith more and see that my worth was in who created me, that changed things for me. It wasn't like night and day, like I have no issues anymore. It was just like this slow healing process of making better choices to support my body and seeing myself differently. And after college, I really felt like God was saying, it's time to really do this. It's time to be made well. It's time to really focus on a holistic approach. And I did that. It took time, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed eating nutritiously. I enjoyed exercise because it wasn't about reaching a goal. It was about just enjoyment and taking care of myself. And but yeah, I lost weight, sustained that weight loss until having my kids. But more so than that, I was at peace. I had joy again. And so from that place, that's when I was like, I wonder if I could help others. And that's when the health coaching came into play.
So you said, they mentioned a child psychologist. And who helped you during this process? Did you have a coach? Coaches are kind of like a newer thing.
Right.
But who helped you do this work and get to where you are today?
Well, a huge part of it for me was two or three things. Just I was involved in a college student ministry where the mentors in my life were really also caring of holistic me. They were like second parent. They married me and my husband. They were just amazing. So they weren't necessarily helping me with the specifics around food and stuff, but just helping me grow in my relationship with God and all these other areas of my life that really, I actually think a lot of those other areas bring us more nourishment, more joy. And when those started to feel more complete, I was like, okay, well, let me look at this. But then I also started to do, when I went back home after I got married, there's this Christian health program called First Place for Health. And have you heard of it?
I found an old book way in the archives of a library. They were selling it for $1.
Yes.
It's like a devotional. And I'm like, you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's the best devotional. And go ahead.
No. So I had started that with my church, but I wasn't ready. So when I was ready, I went and I found this in my mom's bookshelf. And I just got all the resources together. My church was starting to do one. And to me, the guidance of looking at mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, that whole thing just transformed it. It wasn't just about 1,000 steps a day or whatever. It was about did you pray today? Did you, or how's your mind? How's your body? All these things. Yeah. And that book is what kept me grounded, I feel. And then the group too. And eventually I just felt like I can kind of do this on my own. And still now I have different forms of support, whether it was accountability and going to a gym that was also holistic and looking at nutrition and everything, or accountability with my husband was my workout partner, you know what I mean? So along the step of the way, I've had different forms of mentors, coaches and stuff along the way. And you're right, there is a role for that. And there may come a time where you're like, I can follow this program on my own and I'm okay. But I think accountability, support, people you can turn to at some point, even if it's once a month, is helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. That is, as a physician, we make prescriptions that give people pills. Right. Accountability when it comes to behavior change and sustaining a healthy lifestyle, accountability has to be somewhere in the recipe.
Right.
Has to be one of the ingredients. So it was funny, we kind of put this off. And guys, so she has a podcast, I have a podcast, and I listened to her podcast and I know we're in alignment. And I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about? And she said, well, in this season, I'm into helping women love their bodies.
Mhm.
And immediately, I reconnected with one of my friends from high school. I was a cheerleader, and I had beautiful, and I still have beautiful legs. Yes.
Yeah.
But it was just like, and he would always say, you know, I have the best legs. And it's like, okay. And everybody says that my legs are like my grandma Beatrice. Okay, got it. But now I'm 48. I don't have those legs anymore. I've had 2 kids. And I was like, I found myself like apologizing for what's happened to my body. And I'm like, and it was funny. You know, we're not in a relationship. I'm happily married. But he was like, your body looks like it's supposed to look like.
Mhm.
I'm like, I had a whole other person who I haven't seen in decades give me permission to accept my body.
Mm.
And I'm like, I couldn't even do it for myself.
Yeah.
And I've got a podcast. So
Yeah.
when you said that, I was like, you know what? This is for me. Like, where do we start on loving our bodies and all of the changes that it goes through in a lifetime?
Yeah. I think you made a very great point where you recognize that our bodies are not what they used to be. So sometimes we catch ourselves comparing ourselves to others. But I think as you get older, you catch yourself comparing yourself to yourself. Like when I was a teenager, or when a pre-kids, or pre-1 kid, pre-2 kid, pre-3, or you know, if you've had some injuries, pre-injury or different.
Yeah.
You start to then like, our bodies are like, we and our bodies are one. Our bodies are always saying something to us about how we need to love and take care of it. But suddenly we start to like quiet our body's voice, and we start to say to our bodies, okay, this is what you need to be for me. This is what you need to do for me, when your body is running the ship. It's like,
Yeah.
it's created, you know, without your input. So just let it do its thing. But, you know, our bodies, I mean, our bodies are amazing. They're like, literally, John Mayer says that they're wonderlands. Like, they can do so many things. And of course, as women, has the ability to create a kid, sustain a kid, feed a kid, all of that. Now, even if you don't have kids or ever want them, it's like just the fact that your body can do that is a miracle. Now, but society over time, society does have a role, and we have a role, right? We've been given beliefs with everything, not just your body, that our bodies need to look this way, be this way, act this way, form this way. And we just, even as our bodies change, even after you've had 2 kids, which literally is a miracle, we start to tell ourselves like, oh, but how come I can't be as disciplined? I hear this all. How come I can't be as disciplined as I once was? Or how come it's harder for me to like lose weight? Or how come all these different things? And so we just find ourselves stuck in this cycle of comparison. And the comparison is the thief of joy. If we're constantly comparing it over and over and over, we're never happy, you know? I had to catch myself today. You know, I was like, man, I was so much more consistent postpartum with my first. Then I was like, okay, you had 1. You were in the pandemic, so there's nothing else going on. You know, it's like, of course it's going to be harder now, but what have you been doing? Okay, well, you've been going on walks with your kids. You've been doing a couple workouts. Like, that is amazing.
Yeah, focus on the
it might take your body time, but guess what? It might never go back to how it was postpartum, even first pit, you know? And am I okay with that? It's hard. It's hard. So it's first recognizing, what are you comparing? Who and what are you comparing to? And then, like, what do you believe to be true about how your body should look, how your body should act?
Right.
You start to just be aware of that, then you can start to make shifts. But if you don't know that, if you aren't willing to admit that, then it's not gonna go anywhere. You're just gonna be in that cycle again and again.
I like that. I think it's funny when you say your body's not the same. Like, I literally, as an OBGYN, and, you know, at the postpartum visit, and we're talking, and I can hear some of that language coming in. And I tell my patients, your body won't be the same. Like, a whole human just grew inside your body.
And came out.
And came out. One way or another, it came out through your belly or through your vagina. And trust me, both of them are not the same.
Yeah.
How do we even get there, though? Like, how do we even get in the mindset? I mean, should we say, you know what? Okay, maybe my boobs are sagging and that's okay. I mean, do we do it piece by piece, or what are some of the baby steps that we take to start loving our bodies?
Yeah, I think it starts with what you think and say too. So we believe what you think and say, like catch yourself. I call it like catch it, twist it, and release it. So like catch a thought that you have about your body. So it's like I was like, oh, why am I wearing a tight shirt? Like, I still got that little mom belly. I'm like, I should wear a loose shirt. Like, I'm like, wait, but I don't want to wear a loose shirt. Like, why do I think I should wear it? So it's like, so then I, catch it and I'm like, it's okay. But the new thought is it's okay to wear a tight shirt. It's okay if your belly's a little, it's okay. Like, who's to say it isn't? Because you wouldn't say that to some other girl. You'd be like, girl, you're rocking that tight. You know what I mean? So I think, expressing those thoughts in words, because that changes how we act, right? So I also think we need to act. We can't just sit there and say we love our body and all this stuff and not take care of it. That's not love. If your husband said, I love you, and he isn't showing that, you're going to be like, do you love me? It's the same thing. Like words and action have to go together. And sometimes for some people, they're like, I can't even switch the thoughts yet, so I need to work on the action. So what is it like? So if you're like, I really care for my body, then how come you're never giving it water that it needs? Because you're so busy. You're like, oh, I just too busy to drink, or too busy to eat lunch.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you have time, 10 minutes to just sit there and eat, or even eat whatever. We don't want people to eat while they're working, but, and so I think it starts with those small things that many of us know we need to do to take care of our bodies. Mother's Day's coming up. It's like, sometimes I'm like, the way to love my body and myself is to go get a new outfit. Like, you follow. Yes, like, because guess what? You would spend that money on your kid if they needed a new outfit.
Absolutely. Without question, hands down.
So I just think it's like giving ourselves permission to do the things that will help us love our body more. So if that's investing in a coach, if that's investing in a workout program, if that's investing in a massage monthly, whatever, like giving yourself permission. Now, maybe you can't go overboard, but it's like, what's that one thing for you that's going to make the most movement towards loving your body? And then do that. And then when you've got that down, do something else.
So I would love to hear your take on social media.
Okay.
Because everybody's snatched the small waist, the large butts, and the large boobs, and we naturally don't look like that. Like, literally, I take my bra off and my boobs are at my belly button. Like that is not who I am. But it's all around you. Like, the images are all around you. And I'm a grown woman, and I'm thinking I'm not affected by that. But do you think subconsciously that is playing a part in how the images that or how we expect our bodies to look?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it, in regards to even news, for example, or just anything. Like, we're just so much more connected and aware of everyone at any given moment than we've ever been. So maybe in the past, like, you would look at a magazine, which you could throw away or not order, or, you see someone out on the street, but it's a second or two of comparison of seeing, these images. Well, now, like, you literally have access to it at any time.
Yeah.
And it's very easy. But, what I love, I think, but also on social media, I've seen where people are just showing their authentic self. So you do have both sides, right?
Yeah.
It can be extreme too, both sides, right? But I think that's when I think there has to be boundaries around social media. So if it's very like upsetting to you and you're constantly seeing images like that, like, you just need to unfollow some people and not look at it.
Yeah.
Or just, and that's not just with this, that's with anything, even certain political topics or whatever. It's like, if this is going to make you rile up, it's like social media is not the place to discuss a lot of that, but it's also like not where you should always be getting it's great for inspiration, but like, come back to truth. And so if that's all not helpful for you, it's okay to take a break, Yeah. And I've had to take breaks a couple times and I just been like, this is consuming my thoughts and this is not where I want to be, where I want to go. And then when I feel like I'm grounded, secure, I can go back in.
So now you help women through this whole process. Tell me, what do you do? And what are some of the, I guess, not testimonials, but what are some of the results that your clients see after they've worked with you?
Yeah, I think it depends on what they want to work with, but I do think a lot of this, where a lot of women tend to be, older than me, that are like just done with all the quick things, fast things. Kids are older, they're like working, they're like, it's time for me to take care of me. And so for many of them, it's working on the simple habits of taking care of themselves, because again, maybe pre-kids or whatever, they just could do a lot more. And so it's complicated. So we just simplify it where, 10 minutes of movement a day we start, or something like that. And all of those simple habits.
Huh? Yeah. I love that.
How can I have to do in this
10 minutes? You can find 10 minutes out of 24 hours. You sure can. I love that.
Yeah. So what I've even done, and I've encouraged, whether young moms, older moms, busy working moms, to do this, is pick 3 to 5 habits that are 10 minutes each, and just like try to do that. That's less than an hour. And so for me, it's like 10 minutes of movement, and I'm not going to specify what that is in this season, because I just need to move. It doesn't need to be make sure strength or whatever. 10 minutes of, so that helps care for my body and a lot of other things. Cleaning, because I have young kids. So when my house is a mess, I feel a mess, right? So I just I try to tell myself, what's 10 minutes, done. 10 minutes of like scripture or prayer, because that's just going to center me. 10 minutes of writing, or just like 10 minutes of that. And I just try to do those every day. And I don't always hit them every day, but I'm more likely to keep doing them because it's just so small. And that's just helped me stay consistent in things that, again, I used to have hours for. I used to go to the gym for hours, and now I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. If I have time away from the kids, I just want to sometimes I'm like, I just want to clean. I just want to sit in the tub or whatever. So just simplification, I think, is, and it's just like when someone's rehabbing, whether postpartum or rehabbing from an injury. It's like, there's no way we're going to say start running when they can't even walk, right? So we're just doing those small steps, and then go to run again.
Say that again, Brianna. You said we're not going to
tell them to run when they can't even walk.
But we get so upset when we can't run.
Yes.
And you're like beating yourself up because you can't run. And it's like, okay, you just had knee surgery yesterday.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you may have that expectation for yourself.
Right. It's the productive, perfectionistic that we live in, where it's like, you can't feel, you can't slack, you just got to keep going. And there are times where you got to keep going, but there are times where you really need to listen to your body. All that to say, your body's speaking to you. Your body needs things. It's like just understanding. I think that was my whole process when I started to investigate my health and figure out what works is, this is what my body doesn't do well with. I don't do well when I have a lot of dairy. It's not that I can't have dairy, but it just doesn't do well. So now I know that. Versus eating a meal and being like, why do I feel so in my stomach? Or, so just figuring out what your unique body needs in each season. Not one time for all, which is hard.
Yeah.
One thing. So we want a diet that worked maybe before, a detox that worked before. You're like, I want to do the same one because it worked. And it's like, it's not working anymore. It's like, because your body's changed.
Yeah. You changed.
Yeah.
You answering questions before I'm thinking of questions. So one of the ways I ask questions is, I think my mom listens. She's 82.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know half the stuff that we talk about sometimes. And so when you're saying your body's talking to you, my question was going to be, how do you know when your body is talking to you? So you're saying the way you feel is one of the ways that your body's giving you cues that something's not right. So discomfort, pain. Are there other ways that your body talks to you?
Yeah, I think this is where I think it's important to do a food journal, and not a food journal where it's like just what you eat and how much calories or macros. That comes at a certain time. But I think it's asking yourself what do you feel emotionally, mentally, physically before, during, and after, and just noting that. Because this is also very helpful for people who say that they struggle with emotional eating. Is they went into eating very stressed out, and maybe they ate a regular meal and they're like, I wasn't satisfied. I still feel hungry. Well, actually, maybe you were, but you were not present. So, your body just didn't even really recognize you were eating. So of course it's not going to recognize you're full. Or maybe like you realize over a week, every time you eat rice. I had a client, one of my first clients, every time she ate rice, she just felt a little groggy. And she's like, so I'm just not going to have a lot of rice anymore. I'm like, all right, that's good. And so it's helpful to just see how your body is responding to and from food. Physically, emotionally, are you like, you had, even energy-wise, did you have a spike and then you crash? And so, yeah, I just think that's where tracking what you're eating and how you feel before, during, or after can just be an indication of like what's going on. Another thing is like, I asked, this is such a silly question. I asked my husband, I was like, man, why am I so tired sometimes? And he's like, you literally just spent 12 hours with the kids. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I expect, okay, I'm done with that. I should be able to like, boom, boom, ready to go get everything done once they're asleep, whatever. And he's like, sometimes, but not really, And so tiredness, fatigue, just like, yeah, discomfort, or even emotionally, I think I was talking with someone earlier today and she's just, yeah, and so, all the stress is built up and now she's feeling it in her body. And she's like, I don't know why I have so much fatigue. And I'm like, well, that's literally because you've had stress built up over time and your body, like hormonally, all that is just,
come on, chronic stress.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And those are the things that we can't see, touch, or feel. Well, we
right.
feel it. We feel it in our bodies, but it isn't that obvious. And honestly, some stresses you think is good stress. Like, right. I'm working hard. I'm doing a 9 to 5, doing a job that I love, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but yeah, your body registers stress, and hormonally things change. And you're not supposed to be running from a bear for 3 months.
Exactly.
It's just you're not supposed to be. And so is this so funny? I just had a patient who she has PCOS that she's not managing. And it's like when you have a condition, it's very easy to say, it's this.
Mm-hmm.
But then you start digging back the layers, and I haven't had sleep, or my relationship right now is stressed, or financially things are going on. And nobody wants to hear, that it's the stress. They want to hear that it's the condition. And maybe it potentially could be the symptoms that she had. She was constipated, essentially. But, I mean, that's what it was. That's what was causing her to feel, and what she was eating and putting in her body. I think that is what she was feeling.
Uh-huh.
But we're not in a place in America and society right now where people want to know that.
Right.
But that means you have to change, right? You have to change your lifestyle, and that's hard. So what are some of the biggest things that you think, and I don't know, maybe you don't have an answer for, but are there some things that we think that we're doing that we are doing that we think are good for us, but they're really not, like in the long run, or maybe how we're doing it isn't the best for us?
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is the all or nothing mentality or action of like when it comes to our health. So when we are like, oh, I'm just gonna like cold turkey, cut out all these foods, I'm gonna go do this exercise every day, which is great for 30 days or for a short time. And then you start to get tired with it because it was a huge change and shock to your system that was exciting, but how are you gonna sustain it? That's the question. So whenever we're trying to make a change, we should always ask ourselves, like, is this change something I want to do short term or long term? So if I want to consistently exercise for the rest of my life, what do I do now to get me to the rest of my life? Because wellness it's a continuous, we should be like, you can go down, but we should be continuously going up versus like, boom, boom, these big, huge spikes. It should just be like, we're continuously going up the mountain.
Yes,
many of us are like, I'm all in, I'm not in, mountain valley. And I just think that is what's really hurting us, because what happens when you get down to that valley, you lose confidence in yourself. You're like, oh, I did this, but I'm always stopping. So you start to tell yourself, I can't actually do anything that I believe or that I want to do for my health. I don't believe in myself. So if you don't believe that you can achieve body love or lose the weight that you want or no longer be constipated or whatever, then you won't. because you're already telling yourself it's not possible and you're not doing anything to get there. And so I think that all or nothing, and I have to watch myself because we do this, ladies, in multiple areas of our life, not just with our health. And so I have to watch myself and really check where it's like, okay, I wasn't able to do all I wanted to do today, but did I take one step forward? Okay.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Celebrate that today. Okay, then tomorrow might be 2 steps,
Yeah.
Which is not, no one celebrates the steps. Listen, when we all see on social media, we always celebrate someone's results.
Result. Yeah. Good. That's good.
Right? And I love results. I mean, I love results too, but that's what I try to help clients with, is just like, how can we celebrate ourselves for every step? Because if you learn to celebrate yourself for every step, you're building trust with yourself. You're just like, I can do anything because I can take one step. And that's ultimately what, you're the one that's going to change your life, is by taking.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what you just said for the last 2 minutes, I want that in a reel.
I tell that we want that in a
I want all of that in a reel. Like, I love the fact that, okay, is this a long-term or short-term change?
Right.
Because how you start makes a difference if it's long-term or short-term.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny. I hear what you're saying, like the process you go through. It's like you are literally talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's a voice in your head that's saying bad things, and you are literally talking to yourself, probably out loud, saying good things.
Yes.
Well, it seems like we have to make such an effort to get the good in our brain. Is there ever a time, since you're doing this work, is there ever a time that you're on autopilot and that there's no comparison, there's no negative self-talk? Have you experienced that? Or is it always a constant reminder? I just rephrase the question. Like, is there ever a time, like you're literally talking to yourself, saying the good things? The bad things are whispering in your head. They stick. But do we ever get to a point that we don't have the negative self-talk, or we kind of automatically get out of that a lot quicker than we used to?
Yeah, I think it's a skill that we have to learn, like how to overcome it quicker. But no, you guys, we think 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. We think a lot of thoughts, right? And I remember hearing a study that like it takes way more positive thoughts to like stay in your mind than the negative. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like we're just attracted to it. We hold tight to it. So someone says, oh, you didn't speak really well today on that presentation, versus 30 people said, amazing. What do you hear? You hear, because we're prone to believe that we need to be better, always be better. So that thought just is like, okay, I need to be better, versus like, oh, I did a great job. I might have somewhere to improve, but I still did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it gets, when you practice this, it's like mindset work, or, working on your thoughts. It's like to your mind what exercise is to your body. You always need to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's more intense in certain seasons. It's less, in certain seasons. And that's why, doing a check-in around your thoughts each day is helpful. That's why people started talking about affirmations. It's just truth. You're starting to believe truth. Call whatever you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you're always going to have to do it, but it might not be as hard as you keep doing it.
Wow. Well, this journey for you has been how long? You said high school?
So nearly 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah, nearly 20 years.
So to close out our episode, in 20 years.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was 20 years until you said it. I was like, whoa, that's been a while.
20 years. You got receipts. So to close us out, what are some of like the top, I don't know, maybe 1, 2, or 3 lessons that you've learned and have carried with you through till today?
Man, there's so many, but I think one is just knowing that like you're enough right now. Like you're enough right now. Who you are, what you're capable of. That doesn't mean you can't change or shouldn't change. It doesn't mean you can't learn or become better. But when you start to know your worth is not in those things, it sets you up for a good success in anything, right? So knowing where your worth lies is very important. It's not in your work. It's not in your weight. It's not in your wealth. It's not any of that, you know? And that's something I have to continuously learn, guys. Like, listen, my weight's changed in the last 20 years, pre-kid, post, you know what I mean? And so I have to keep telling myself this. My work has changed. My ability to work in the hours I want has changed. My wealth has changed, you know, so, and then I also think simplicity is key. Like, simplicity is key because when you can do simple things daily, you're going, like, every successful person that you have ever seen in your life did things. Like, I remember Usain Bolt. He was talking about how the real work is not in the Olympics or race day. The real work is all his training. That sucks. Training is not good. Training is hard, but it gets him towards that result he wants. And so you gotta like do those simple, unsexy things each day, you know, like get sweaty, you know, do some squats, whatever. And so, yeah, so you're enough. Simplicity is key, and get support. We're not meant to do any of this life alone. And whatever support you need, get it.
I just said that an hour ago.
There we go.
Literally. We have a pond out back, and the geese, they're always together in a family. They don't separate. If I see one by itself, I know something is wrong. But somehow we've gotten in our heads that we can do it by ourselves, and we were never created. We were never created to do it alone.
Never.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Wow. So this has been amazing. Look, y'all, like, I knew the magic would happen, and you brought it. So tell me, like, tell our audience, you know, how can they follow you or, you know, sign up to work with you? Give us all the details.
Yeah, so they can, I'm very active on Instagram at Madewell Women, on Facebook too, the same thing, Madewell Women. So you can connect with me there on social media. Yeah, and if you want to, like, I always say, if you want to learn more about me, where it's like working with me, you can book a free call and we can just talk about and see, get clarity. I like to call it clarity calls, to get clear on what you want and if I'm a good fit. And if I'm not a good fit, I'll tell you, then I'll maybe refer you to someone who else is a good fit for you. It's not about you working with me, it's about you getting clear on what you need. And so you can go to madewell345.com/clarity, and I'll give you the link for that.
Yep, we'll have it in the show notes for sure. And is it the Madewell Woman or Women podcast?
Women podcast.
Okay, women, multiple, plural. Okay. So
create a movement of Madewell Women. That's why, you know.
I'm here for it.
I'm here. You're a Madewell Woman, you know.
I totally am.
Yeah.
I feel it, and I cannot believe this is my life. So now, like, it's not perfect.
Right.
But I was telling somebody earlier today, I got to a point in life where I was like, I don't know what God has in store for me, but it has to be better than this.
Yes.
And so when you get on the other side, it just feels so good to be made well and to be whole again. So thank you so much for coming on. And God, y'all know I don't ever bring y'all any mess. So you heard it. You can feel it. Please follow her because we need to be made well. Need to be made well. So, all right. Diana, we'll be following you. And thank you for coming on again.
Thank you.
And guys, thank you for listening to another episode of Office Visits with Dr. V.